bank rates by almost 3.5%. So increasing bank rates is not a good news for investors, prospective investors, because the money is expensive. Taking a loan is pretty much expensive. Almost 14 million borrowers have been the victim of this increment. But if they do not do it, they may not be able to control the inflation. What happened in the United States? After 40 years, they experienced 9.1%, but it came down dramatically to 7 plus minus. So the interest rate was dramatically the inflation rate was dramatically reduced by tightening the money. So this was one of the reasons, depending upon their total trade. Now South Korea suffers $48 billion currently. The statistics I got just two weeks ago. So $48 billion. This was the reason even they had a virtual meeting with Elon Musk, the world's richest person and president of South Korea, the other day. So they have agreed that some important parts would be manufactured for Tesla in South Korea. The location has not yet been decided, but it is more or less decided now. There will be collaboration. Until now, South Korea expects now by the end of December the gain from the exports of vehicle parts to Tesla alone would be worth $10 billion by the end of December this year. And with Saudi Arabia, South Korea last week agreed that they will sign up in 26 memorandum understanding. So South Korea is aggressively going forward to establish infrastructure, industries, and then export motor parts, nuclear energy, etc., etc. So everything is going to be in the right direction, provided that this war doesn't prolong. What is happening now? The entire global economy is being controlled by two countries. So Moscow and Washington DC is making fool to everyone. This is the situation at the moment. Being a university professor, I'm a bit physical sometimes, so I don't get scared. I have nothing to lose, nothing to gain. Because I'm already retired now, between 10, 11 years. I'm retired after working for UN agencies in almost 70 countries globally for the last 40 years. So now I'm totally retired, so I don't do any work for UN agency either. God has given me enough. So I sometimes I may sound pretty blunt. If the time permits, you may ask me any question on my presentation today. Please take me to another slide, please. You want to read me? Yeah, okay, fine. So this is the global trend at the moment. In 2021, the inflation was 4.7. In 22, 8.8. In 23, we anticipate 6.5% global inflation rate. And the growth is in a declining trend. See, from 6% to 3.2% and then 2.7%. So the Brookings institution is one of the most accredited institutions globally acknowledged. This institution has made some projections that the global growth would come down to 1.2%. The total value of the global assets, value of goods and services, would be reduced to 1.2% by the end of this fiscal year. This is pretty much scary. How about yeah. In case of emerging markets, we have about 26 emerging markets at the moment currently. number of countries 26. So, in the emerging markets and some developing countries, the growth rate was 6.6% in 2021. After COVID, it is now 3.4%. And it is anticipated that provided that the war prolongs, the scenario could be totally different. Basically, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and other 22 countries are in this group. And developing economies are expected to slow from 6.6% to 3.4% by the end of December this year. So this is another interesting scenario developing. After COVID-19, the Federal Reserve had to fight against huge inflation. So it became sort of a common disease. A global economic slowdown was noticed everywhere. The world, as I told you a couple of seconds ago, now the decision makers, the so-called influencers, have been to Moscow and Washington at the moment. You know, Moscow suffers from the restrictions. Therefore, they create supply side constraints. Washington is worried about the US dollar and they are losing ground in trade and exports. So what they do, they increase excessively the interest rates. So what is currently even happening? In many countries, people are even extending their local currency into US dollars, and they are having a capital flight from other countries to United States because we see the devaluation of local currencies globally at the moment because dollar is very much stronger. So this is the reason. So the US dollar is the de facto currency at the moment. It has been the strongest in the last 2 decades. It's still rightly squeezing dozens of lower income nations that they heavily rely on imports of food and oil and borrowed dollars. Even Nepal, if you try to assess what is happening in Nepal, about 3% devaluation has been noticed in the last 6 months in Nepal's currency. So debt servicing liability has been, significantly increased. Although, dollar is getting stronger, the remittance earners would make good money because the exchange rate has been now from 128 rupees to 130 to 32 at the moment for $1. So household income would slightly be increased. There is also a trend of increasing income flows from the remittances. This year, 14.6% has been increased at the moment. So for those houses who heavily depend on the remittances income of their family members, they should be happy, but country as a whole would desperately lose. Because Nepal's debt servicing liability at the moment has been alarmingly high. Public debt at the moment is almost 42% of the GDP. It was 36% anticipates Nepal's public debt as a ratio of GDP would go to 43.5% by 2023. So on the one hand, debt servicing liability is increasing. On the other hand, our debt per se is also increasing. So Nepal's economy is ailing in that particular sense. There is a huge trade deficit. Even, our 60% of our economy depends on India because of the informal economy going on both the borders. There are some interest groups in India, and there are some interest groups in Nepal side. What they do is they bribe the police, they bribe the border securities and all, and then unauthorized trade happens. Everybody knows about that. It's an open secret. Almost 50% of Nepal's economy is informal economy. When we say informal economy, it doesn't get registered into the customs. So the revenue doesn't make any money out of that. So most of the industrialists in Nepal now these days have become a trader, a commission agent. Rent-seeking activities is going on. So the market is unruly unless you control the market, unless you have a strong visibility in the borders. Nepal will suffer more because Nepal's entire convertible currency is spent to purchase Indian currency and then import goods from India. You may think that Nepali rupees and Indian rupees is easily convertible, but there are dozens of products, commodities in India, for which we need to purchase Indian currency with the dollars, hard-earned dollars, and then we import goods and services to Nepal. Now the forex reserve in Nepal's case is comfortable. In Korea's case, for instance, Korea happens to be the 8th largest country in the world. This is a good thing. 8th largest country in the world with regard to forex reserve at the moment. This is where we have a breathing space. And we can play with the monetary and financial policies. This is what we're doing. I have given so many data about South Korea in these slides, coming slides. I may not be able to wind up my presentation in 20 minutes, but I know 100%, I'm sure. So, but if you get chance, if you are interested to learn more about what's happening, what are the policy, what are the way forward for Korea, I have tried my level best to state that. Because we have been used to, be an international consultant for the IMF and the World Bank. So I have been visiting different countries. Like you conduct a study, the doctoral students and MPhil students, you must be doing some kind of impact analysis. You must be doing some baseline survey. You must be doing some sort of specified works in a specific area. So you have indicators, built-in indicators. Based on that, the mission from the World Bank and IMF goes to different countries. Within 2 weeks time period, they bring out 40 pages longer state of the economy of certain countries. So this is the reason why it was easy for me also to note down the different economic indicators that the South Korea is going through in recent years after the COVID and after this Russian and Ukraine war. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah, international financial institutions predict Russia's GDP. There is two different scenarios. On my active right hand side in the slide you can see 5.5% and 9%. So under the best scenario, Russia's GDP would decline to 5.5%. Only 5.5%. But if things do not go, if Russia still continues to attack Ukraine, and if entire European Union, United States, UK, these allies, collaboratively work out, and then the situation would be worse for Russia. 9% growth will be reduced. So this is pretty much alarming scenario, two scenarios. The inflation would be 22%. Already Moscow's main index of exchange has come down to 1/3. So this is very much alarming for Russian economy. Russia is fighting at the moment with full confidence. Just 2 days ago, it was unusual, unexpected, but look at the economic scenario, economic health. If medical doctors are here, good friends, we usually conduct a comprehensive blood test, and this shows what is your level of cholesterol, triglyceride, urine, and sugar, etc., etc. So if you look at Russian economy from that perspective, from debt, from growth, from forex reserve, etc., etc. There are a couple of countries who had some sort of, barter system. We give this much to you, you give this much of petroleum products to us. And they were compromising, but now that has not also worked. There are three key institutions. Sometime I'll talk to you about that. Who could decide to whom to put on the SWIFT sort of conditionality? Basically, United Nations is responsible for that. We think sometimes the USA has done everything. It's not only within the USA's reach. It has to be a consensus among 11,000 globally, more than 200 countries happen to become a member of SWIFT. So not only one country can do it. There has to be an agreement between dozens of countries, dozens of countries, and United Nations per se. Next. The countries, once they, I am now talking about China. Once it was a red hot economy. Surprisingly, China used to have a regulated growth. If it thought they are getting good market because of good political understanding between the European market and US market, they would increase the growth. If they scared that whatever you produce, our domestic Chinese cannot consume all our production, there will be overproduction, then they used to be scared and then they come down to growth projections. The growth would have been lower down. So there was a regulated growth. And for more than 2 decades, China maintained double-digit growth. China did that. So 2 years ago, when I was doing some work for the World Bank, when we were in Washington, there had been a series of meetings at the World Bank. And China was aspiring for making their currency, yuan, as one of the convertible currency, unlike the US dollars. So, property market, real estate businesses, estimates, projections were so much going on, capital fight, everything. It entirely changed the global scenario. But now China is very much quiet at the moment. That dream for China to make yuan one of the global, easily convertible currency has been stopped for a while at the moment because of zero COVID policy. Beijing University, one of the largest and very accredited university in the world, with one case of COVID, they entirely closed the university for an indefinite period. Couple of there are two kinds of instruments usually China uses. One, safety-based measures, and one, market-based measures. The global trend is to go for market-based measures, but with some level of control. But China goes with because if they don't go higher safety-based measures, they would give us the trade data. It's been almost 3 months. You don't precisely know how much trade deficit China is going to. There are key economic indicators. Every country in the world provides to the World Bank, and even the senior vice president from the World Bank is from China. They are in a decision-making level at the decision-making level. But getting full information on these economic indicators by China is not an easy task. Thank you. This is again China. Stock market indices in China has plunged down by as much as 40%. in one day. Stock price plunges down to 40% in one day. It's not a joke. It's pretty much alarming. Reuters, this is globally known institution, its estimates shows that growth should slow down to 3.2%. Even some feel like this year China would have zero growth. Can you imagine? So China's case is not very sort of acceptable at the moment to Chinese people as well. I told you about the market-based regulators and the security-based regulations. China is heavily depending on the security-based regulators. There are 1,001 issues we can talk about that to justify that. But you just take this for granted because of the time constraint. So, European Union are going through hardships at the moment. You'll be surprised to know that Russia alone exports 155 billion cubic meters, including 14 billion of cubic meters of LNG to the European Union. So by next year, European Union is going to make a policy on the basis of which 2/3 reduction would be there in their demand. Until the second half of 2021, EU, Russia's market share was 50%. Now, by 2022, it came down to 17.2%. So Russia is not even giving any sort of oil and natural gas to European Union to the level of the requirement. So there has been some level of alliance to look into other possible alternatives. But to fulfill the gap of 155 billion cubic meters, including 40 billion by next year, is just absolutely impossible. Just impossible. Next slide. So the major impact that we see in increased public debt, levels of taxation, decline in consumption. I'm talking about the European Union now. Decline in investment as a percentage of GDP. So European Union's economy is sacked. Not only that, even the victim has been the UK. After the Brexit, for instance, they have been losing their market and they have been losing a large pool of cheaper labors that used to come from European Union to work in UK. So they have been losing it. This is the reason why India has overtaken UK. This is what I say. Next. So the United Kingdom now is raising again the taxes, interest rate, so that they may, in near future, bring down the inflation pressure to the market. In the US, people are now realizing, we talk a lot about inflation, but the new terminology has been used by some Nobel laureates as well. We call it shrinkflation. You buy a packet of potato chips. More than half is empty in the packet. Price doesn't go high. Price the same, but amount is reduced. You buy a tube of, say, a conditioner. You squeeze the tube, but it doesn't last long, as it used to be. So this is shrinkflation, not inflation. In the inflation, you have high price, too much money chasing for too few goods. But it's shrinkflation. So these countries are experiencing shrinkflation. What happened? In less than 6 weeks, now, United Kingdom also has, in less than 5 years, they have 6 different prime ministers. The lady had to say goodbye to everybody, and Mr. Rishi Sunak became the prime minister, was largely because she announced that there will be a highly reduction in the corporate tax, etc., etc. So it was sort of Reaganomics and Thatcheronomics. So this was the reason she had to go. Now, Rishi Sunak had a hard time. Now he's going clearly against that. Representing the same party, but you have to take a different economic policy as a rule. So we really don't know where the world is moving at the moment. So the impact from Russia and Ukraine war is just massive. You know, Russia is world's second natural gas producer and third petrol producer. 20% of world's wheat production is in Russia. You know, both Ukraine and Russia share 60% in the sunflower oil, and wheat constitutes 29%. Russia and Ukraine combined. And the whole possibility of getting this percent of the resources now gone. Russia exports 29% oil and gas to EU, exports 6.5 million barrels per day. We know in one barrel there is somewhere around 158 to 59 liters petrol. And barrel also. Barrel 158 to 159 liters. The stock market declined by 20% due to the military buildup. They wanted to go against Ukraine to take over. So the stock market declined. And these 15 African countries import more than half wheat from Russia and Ukraine. So the countries in Hungary, Yemen, Afghanistan, and East India. You must have heard about Bengal drought, famine in 1943. The situation at the moment in these countries has become more or less like the Bengal famine of 1943, which people do not even want to recall that. These are the details about Korea and details about Nepal here. In 2022, the economy is expected to grow around 2.6%. You know, Korea Development Institute, this is the institute where I recall my visit. Most of you were not even born that time. It was 1979 when I visited Korean Development Institute. 1979. That time I was studying in the United States, but I applied for my professional associate seat at the Institute Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. So after spending a couple of months in Hawaii, our group came down to Korea for 2 weeks. And then the KDI's projections is more or less similar to IMF projections, so we are hopeful that this happens in Korea. OECD also states private spending may be reduced as there is slow growth. So when there is a slow growth, private disposable income reduces. When you don't have much of the disposable income, you don't have much for spending. And then what happens? Unlike UK, your standard of living would be reduced. So this is the thing, in future. Trade deficit, the policy for recovery has helped increasing consumer spending. However, export and investment and rising interest rates is still affected by the global economic slowdown. I told you it is 132% higher than what really happened a couple of months before Southeast Asian currency crisis. When in Korea in 1997, Korea also suffered from Southeast Asian currency crisis. People voluntarily deposited their ornaments to the Bank of Korea. So that really showed what level of patriotism the Koreans did have. Now, this war has been creating a lot of problems globally. Imports were 18 billion, although export in August was up 7.7%. But however, in the export to China dwindled to 5.4% on year in August. Imports in the same month amounted to $61.73 billion, 31% jump on year. Next slide, please. The current account balance is expected to fall. But the foreign exchange reserves, and then some development in foreign investment, that may balance this current account deficit in Korea. The current account, the Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho very recently urges the lawmakers to passing 2023 budget, which is say about 40.5 trillion won less than the current budget, current fiscal budget. The next fiscal year, the amount has been reduced. On November 23, the Bank of Korea has increased bank rate to 2.25% after 10 years. So FSS, DSR exceeds 90%. That means 1.2 million borrowers will be taken. It's difficult for me to manage the time because I cannot explain more. It may look pretty much complicated. Korea's forex reserves fell down to $416.77 billion in September from 436 to 43 billion in August, the largest monthly decline since October 2008. Stagflation. Korea is not currently facing any sort of stagflation. Stagflation, I think you very well know, reduce output and increase in unemployment. That is not possible at the moment. And recession, even USA is scared about recession. Even China is getting scared about recession. But in Korea's case, recession doesn't look possible to me personally, considering different indicators. Now, President very rightly said, the B20 is a group of alliance out of the G20. It's a business group, business alliance. Korea this year in the UN and also in B20 meeting, G20 meeting during G20 meeting led the group, and they followed that. It is the whole problem that Korea and other countries are facing at the moment. It is not because of the demand problem. It is because of the supply side problem. So the entire policy should be directed towards the supply economy, supply side economy. So from that perspective, monetary policy and financial policy is both being designed in South Korea. So nuclear reactors provide 1/3 of the energy. This is where Korea has big strength, helping Middle East countries at the moment. Next. Implementing research and development. This is one of the best things that Korea does compared to other countries. This is slide. You are more clever than me. So Nepal's case is there. I told you already, very briefly. Basically, let me conclude by saying, Nepal now goes through a couple of distinct conditions. For instance, being an economist, I have difficulty to explain why, even if Nepal has a 7% growth, we had that before the COVID. Consequently, for 3 years, we had 7% growth. But growth doesn't have anything to do to create employment. Growth doesn't create employment. See, we have a global standard monetary policy, but monetary policy miserably fails to control inflation. In South Asia, we have done best, in the context of poverty reduction. And Nepal's delegates were invited to UNDP in New York to offer the award to appreciate Nepal that became successful in reducing the poverty. So poverty reduction has nothing to talk about reducing income inequality. When you increase the salary and wages, it has nothing to do to increase productivity. Increasing salary and wages is inelastic to productivity. Monetary policy is inelastic to inflation. Growth is inelastic to employment. Poverty is inelastic to income inequality. So this is the anomalies Nepal's economy is going through currently. So the new government should consider these anomalies and then work accordingly. Thank you. Sorry for